famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
Bougainville could see it in the eyes of every Russian he met. They feared foreigners, their neighbors, any man in uniform.
Deep 6. Episode 5. Remote Control President.
Every 100th can has botulism. Good luck, folks.
I like those odds.
That certainly would have corrected some population problems when everyone mentioned cans.
Speaking of only having boring stories because we're in our 40s, a few months ago when me and my wife went on our trip to Prince Rupert, we just went like all the way across BC to the west, all the way to the coast, stopping at every town and every bar and every microbrewery.
Oh!
One of the things we actually did out in Prince Rupert was we toured a cannery from the 1800s.
What'd you see?
You wouldn't think that would be that interesting, but basically the entire place is run by the local teenagers. That's where the local kids work. So we were there on this 15-year-old's first day doing the tour unassisted.
Oh, that's adorable.
So he was just whacked out of his mind excited giving this speech, and we got to see how the old canning machine worked, because they would take thousands of tons of fish out of the water and directly into processing and canning in this building. And boy, is there a lot of lead and bare hands in the canning process. A lot of lead.
Like, why is there a chompy room? And lead? Why is there lead at all in food safety?
Because lead was how they sealed the can on there. The fish was punched into the can.
Oh.
And then it went on this device that sort of rolled it. It rolled it through a shallow puddle of molten lead. And then the can lid was slammed on, and then it was rolled through the puddle of lead again.
Oh, okay. So that's why the corners of the cans had rolled tops.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was the sealant, was molten lead.
That lead is something else, because it is.
Keep your fish safe.
Yeah, keep it real safe. Oof.
Good times.
I always love going into old factories or whatever, because you don't realize that this is an industry, a city all on its own. You get a factory or your warehouse or whatever, but there are things going on in there. Unless you go in there and see, you don't know what kind of craziness is happening behind the scenes. You're like, oh, it's a cannery. They put things in cans and people buy canned fish. Fine. You don't think choppy room with molten lead and molten lead running around. You don't think warehouses, oh, this is where they keep cargo they can't open and look at because the government says, this is secure cargo. And that's kind of interesting.
These canneries were cities unto themselves, because it's not like there was roads anywhere like this. They would have just boats turn up one year and drop off enough wood to make the buildings and enough people to make the buildings, and they said, we'll come back next year, have a cannery ready. And there were dorms for the Chinese workers, dorms for the native workers, and individual houses for the white workers.
Potentially.
Yeah. But all these people would bring their entire families. So we got the tour. So while the men were out fishing, the women were upstairs fixing nets, and the kids were running around refilling the lead puddle.
Oh, sure. And I think lead's sweet, like antifreeze. So kids like to lick it.
This smells amazing.
let your dogs and cats just go lick the random lead.
So much lead. Oh my God.
We do have a famous apple orchard by us that has this homemade apple press that is just a Rube Goldberg machine that was built in the 1890s when they settled the farm. So it's about 6 feet high, and it's meant for the apple cart to come and funnel all the apples in. And it's just lots of corkscrews and presses. So if there's any tiny fingers anywhere near there, they're getting noodled. But there's no lead in the making of the apple juice, as far as I can see.
Oh, thank
God. They
God.
might add that later for flavoring.
I'm sure the first apple presses were made out of lead, because it's the heaviest. Hello, it'll be the best for crushing the apples.
It's this magic metal. You could smush it with your hands. The heat of your hands melts it.
Lead has a million uses.
Makes Republicans.
I wasn't going there this time around.
Oh, I'll go there every time.
Okay.
All right, everybody. This is a high energy episode of Cussler Hustlers. I am your co-host, Nancy. Over there is co-host Topper. Hi, Topper.
Hi, everybody. I was not expecting to be the high energy one this episode for the first time in 50 episodes.
I'm getting my energy up.
I'm just going to email Nancy some coffee.
So, thank you.
Oh, and by the way, we've gone 50 episodes.
Happy 50th.
Which means we have put up more episodes than 95% of all podcasts.
Are you serious?
No.
Wow, look at us.
Or rather, yes, I am serious. Half of podcasts make it past 10, and then there's like a real steep drop-off after that.
I could see that. People don't realize how little time they have.
Yeah.
Until you start to schedule something, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to be someplace at a time? It's going to blow up my whole week.
That's why I made a podcast about a book series from an author, or a bunch of authors rather, who put out books faster than we can cover them. So we'll never run out.
Don't forget, you're here forever.
There is a method to this madness.
Pretty sure since we've been doing this, Clive Cussler Industries have put out 3 books.
Wow, they have cojones. That is just like, what can I say? They're still making Nancy Drew books. And I thought Carl Peterson guy was dead for years. He's making new books.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Cussler, for defeating death at every at every corner. So,
anyway,
this book.
Deep 6.
Deep 6. Chapter 43.
Yes.
Our guy Paulie Suryov throws clothes at Senator Larimer. And Senator Larimer is like, where'd you get these clothes and how did you know they fit? Which, Cussler, bless you, everybody thinks this all the time whenever you watch a movie and some guy throws an outfit thrown at him. How do you know it's going to fit? He's going to struggle with, size 48 pants and he's shaped like Woody Allen and he's going to be running.
At the risk of getting off on a tangent one sentence into this, I just finished reading the Angel Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. Highly recommended. It's a weird read. He has a weird writing style. But anyway, it's basically a send-up of slashers, and the third book is like slasher on slasher on slasher. It's unbelievable. But one character being given a change of clothes that fits her perfectly. She thinks about this, so like, how did they have clothes that fit me perfectly? And is actually like a kind of shirt I would buy. But she has too much stuff going on. She doesn't think about it. And it actually foreshadows like 2 important major plot beats later on.
Oh, really?
He found a way to work that in, like, there was a reason they had your clothes.
Oh, excellent. Reacher, the Amazon Prime television show Reacher, he doesn't own anything. His conceit is like he only carries his toothbrush.
Yeah.
So when he goes into a new town, he rolls into the thrift shop and gets a new outfit. And of course, it's never like free martinis on Tuesdays t-shirt, at Marty's. It's never a branded doofusy looking outfit. It's always like, it's a tight turtleneck or it's a tight muscle t-shirt, perfect boots. And this guy's 8 feet tall. Of course.
I was going to say, as somebody who is very large, but not even as large as Alan Richson, thrift shops do not have much in my size.
I think you brought this up when the show came out. Like, he's got no hope going into any store and getting anything.
Thank you, magical TV thrift stores.
I was looking for shoelaces once in Japan, and I went into a shoe store, and this was not recently. This was around the year 2000. And the lady thought I was trying to buy shoes, and she was like, "No, we have no size for you." I'm not going to try and do but she was just adamant. There's no size for you. And I was like, no, not shoes, just laces. I broke a lace.
Get out of my store.
Nothing your size. Out.
Anyway, yes, Larimer and Moran get some clothes thrown at them, and a chopper comes and picks them up at their limo.
Does the limo have a helipad attached? Is there an attachment in the 80s that you could attach to the limo? Oh, I've got nowhere to go with that joke. Moran is still regaining consciousness, so they have to shovel him on the helicopter. Yeah. The pilot and Paulie get everybody on board, which can't be easy because these guys are loopy.
Mm-hmm. And Suvorov orders them to fly around until they find the installation, the brainwashing installation.
Where they just escape from.
And then get them to safety. And over the course of this conversation, Suvorov lets it drop that there's 5,000 Russian sleeper agents in America at any given time. And this helicopter pilot is one of them.
Yes, you can be a sleeper cell and never be called. You can just be a citizen waiting for your orders.
Yeah.
And never be activated. Or you can be like this pilot and just, you have your orders, you show up, you don't ask any questions, and then you go back and you blend in with the rest of the world. Ideally. I think that's what they tell him. The exit plan might differ. Your mileage may vary.
They find the road that they took out of the installation area, but the warehouse is gone. And Suvorov is like, no, it was here. It was a warehouse. Wait, it must have been a boat, like that houseboat right over there. And the pilot's like, the water here is 3 feet deep. You're an idiot. Let's go.
Yeah, the pilot was getting really short with him because Paulie could not find this installation that he just escaped from. It should not have taken this long. They were running out of fuel. The pilot's getting very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
And Paulie's like, but it was just here. The whole warehouse was just here.
Okay, Grandpa, let's get you back to bed.
Yes, exactly. Get back on the helicopter now. Now we're going to do sneaky helicopters.
After they fly away, and this is verbatim, dictated, not read, by the host of the Cussler Hustler podcast, a Chinaman peers out through the houseboat window and gets the helicopter's ID and then dials a number.
Oh, yes. There's all of those lovely antiquated words littered throughout this book that made me question why you wanted to do this one and not skip it entirely. But I guess we're going to come across that Rubicon a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yes, people cross the Rubicon once. You're going to be crossing it like it's a serpentine road. Again, cross your roads. Chapter 44, we got Curtis Mayo, love a condiment. He works at CNN, and he's calling Dan Fawcett. And he was like, I'm onto you. The presidential photo op was a front. It's a body double. And Mayo's like, has no doubt about it. Your duplication the duplication theory has been found out. Fawcett lies, tells him it's crazy, but he does call the State Department to tell them the jig is about to be out. Yeah. What I don't get is Fawcett's like, he's going over the details in the Zapruder film footage of this photo op, like frame by frame. He's like, he's wearing the ring on the wrong finger. He's wearing the wrong watch. This is such spurious evidence.
Yeah.
All Fawcett has to do is accessories. You're saying he's a body double because he's wearing different accessories.
That would work on Twitter.
And this is 80-something. You could just posit, are you gay? Looking at his accessories. It would have been the end of the conversation.
Yes, that would have done it. Rumors abound. President gay?
No, reporter gay? No. He just probably would have been quietly fired and murdered in his sleep. But it seems like spurious. It's a stretch even for Clive to say, like, okay, the reporter is going to crack this case wide open because he noticed a different watch.
Mm-hmm.
But speed of plot and all that.
This is one of those chapters that has like 4 different things happening. So we cut from Fawcett and Mayo to Sam Emmett, FBI, and Brogan, CIA. I have to keep looking up who works where because there are so many moving pieces in the government in this book. And they're finally starting to think, a missing Soviet psychologist and his entire staff all vanish at the same time as the Eagle, the same night, the same hour. I wonder if there's a connection. And one of them posits, I wonder if a psychologist could be used to extract secrets from the president. So they're finally catching up to the plot now.
Which is also a wild swing.
Yes.
But hey.
You have to make that swing. They listened to the recorded conversations that President Antonov had with his KGB chief, Polovoy, that the French recorded and handed off to them because all the countries, swap spy information.
Well, they made it seem like if it had no value to them, they'll just pass it along. It's like loose change. Oh, this belongs to, it's a Canadian coin. It's a Canadian pay. We'll give it to Canadian people. We found the US dollar. Let's put it over there.
We don't know what this means. Maybe you will.
It's harmless. This intelligence means nothing to us.
Yeah.
The codename Chinese whore comes up, and Sam Elliott's like, friend Emmett's, not Sam Elliott, is like, well, they're keeping it classy over there.
Yeah, the old bitch and the Chinese whore. And I do like how they're talking about how the Russians must be in on this plot, but the Russians also have, like, somebody they're working with. And Emmett says, I bet it was you. And Brogan says, haha, I bet it was you, because no one talks to each other. So the CIA and the FBI are blaming each other for this. Again, I think they did that at the start of the book.
I think they do that all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's how they blamed 9/11 on each other.
And the whole Trump shooter thing.
Yes.
That wasn't our job.
I thought that was your law enforcement guy. No, I thought, who needs to coordinate?
And then they all came together and blamed the Mounties.
And also in Chapter 4, Pitt is under surveillance by baddies. He doesn't know it yet.
Yes, there's 2 men in a plumbing truck.
As he's trying to make his way to his car to head home, and just to sit in his beautiful Talbot Lago car, which, as we've established in earlier episodes, looks like the Joker mobile. It's very cool looking. It is an awesome car. I want it badly.
Snidely Whiplash would drive that. Look him up, kids.
Snidely Whiplash. As he doesn't know he's under surveillance, he stops because Al passes by. He has a friendly chat, and that's when his car was blown up. And that's very sad for Pitt. He really liked that car, and he's going to mope a long time about this.
Because now it's personal.
Now it's personal. He's more upset about this car than about the woman dying in the first episode, the first chapter.
Yeah.
But he's known the car longer, so I get it. And now we come to part 3.
The Leonid Andreev, Chapter 45, August 7th, 1989, Miami, Florida.
1989. That was a pretty good year. I think I had Mrs. McGurk as a teacher. She was, I think, drunk all the time. I hope your 1989 went well.
I would have been in baseball.
Loren is at a junket. I don't know if they call him a junket. She's on an international fact-finding mission for cruise line justifications or national cruise line justifications.
That's what it's for. Okay, because later on I had it underlined. What facts is she supposed to find on this mission? Because all she is on a Russian cruise ship, eating and drinking and talking to people.
Yes, the economic viability of a nationalized cruise system.
Ah, okay. That makes sense, kind of.
Sure.
It's the thinnest possible pretext.
And then she goes to her cabin, and she's dancing around her cabin. She takes off all her clothes. We learn she's 37 years old now. She looks at herself in the mirror. She's like, hey, I still look great for 37. This is just for the guys to let you know she's not an ugly broad yet.
Yeah, she does the A1 example of men writing women, which is where she stares at herself naked in a mirror so she can describe herself to herself.
Which is what you have to do every day. I've been to the meetings. This is the rules.
She also pinched her belly and was sad to find nearly an inch of flesh between thumb and forefinger. My God.
The body shame. She should just kill herself now. 37 and she could pinch an inch? Then she gets dressed and just goes for a walk around the ship. After all, she's there to observe and analyze. And she sees a quiet helicopter, a sneaky helicopter, come and quickly deposit people and head right back out. And in that quick depositing, she recognizes, or thinks she does, the Speaker of the House, Alan Moran. But she thinks she recognizes his face, but it was very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And those people moved very quickly on board, and that's the end of that. But she goes to dinner with the captain later that night and brings up the helicopter landing, in which she thinks she saw the Speaker of the House, and she thinks possibly he was terrified in a sneaky helicopter landing. So you're going to just blurt that out at the captain's table? Was dinner conversation that boring? You had to go right to, let's just spill the beans.
How do you do that? Spill the beans.
Yeah, let's get some reactions out of these people, see what happens. And the captain's like, ha, 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 no. 2 wealthy Texans missed the boat and flew out to join us. And she thinks, oh, that makes total sense. That's probably what happened. But Pitt did just mention missing high-up government officials right before I went on this mission.
I'm surprised she doesn't say that. Because
Just
why
out
not you
loud.
lay all the cards out on the table, Loren?
You know, my boyfriend says some people in the government have recently gone missing.
But you don't like boyfriend, because there was... Never mind, it's a long story.
My side piece, Dirk. Naked photos of us were in the papers like 6 months ago. Do you remember that?
Did they make it to the papers? I thought that was squashed.
I guess it was squashed. I like to think that it was they were all published and they were just like, yeah, and?
Oh, that would have been the best version of the 1980s, where the U.S. as a country was not all puritanical about women and nudity. What a different world we'd be in right now.
But you're right, that was quashed. That's no fun.
So Loren begins to doubt her recollection, despite what her side piece boyfriend says. But still the doubt is lingering in her mind, so she does a ship-to-shore call, which, as I understand, is $1 billion a minute. Those used to be phenomenally expensive. And she calls her secretary, Sally Lindman. We get a full name for Sally. I like that for her. And she sends Sally, you gotta go find Moran. Go find the Speaker of the House. You have to see him face to face. You can't see his wife. You can't see his secretary. You have to go see him.
But she doesn't use Moran's name. Like, she's very carefully talking about,
oh,
hey,
yes, you're right.
do you remember that guy who shot down this so-and-so Bill last year? And Sally's like, do you mean me? And
she cuts
her off. And you're like, oh, yep. Him. Find him.
As if this is a secret call. Like, nobody's monitoring the ship-to-shore transmissions on this Russian vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was just a pleasure cruise through and through and she was just a regular tourist from Pennsylvania, they would be monitoring every call, just for fun, for practice.
Well, she knows that they're being monitored, but I'm surprised this bought her as much time as it did.
Her secretary is like, so what do I say once I get to him? Because she's not fully cognizant of what is happening. The secretary, she's woken up by a phone call in the middle of the night. So this laying a whole reality of go find the Speaker of the House of the United States government and see him face to face and then say nothing to him is a weird gig.
Just go, oh, there you are, and then leave.
But like make a big, you have to wake up his wife and his dog.
Mm-hmm.
You have to upset his whole schedule and then say nothing? That's an odd request.
And she calls back in the morning, and this part's wild. But I love how it starts off with, in the morning, Loren's getting dressed, and she's getting dressed all sexy and staring at herself in the mirror so she can describe herself to herself. And the steward comes and tells her that she has a call, but spends the whole time staring at her chest.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cleavage on that page.
But I feel like Clive Cussler heard us. Maybe Clive Cussler, through the din of time and the echoes of death, has understood that sometimes women are just addressed to their breast and not their face. And it's weird. And he committed that to page.
It's been 200 pages. This book hasn't been very horny. So
he's trying to scooch it in where he can.
Yes.
After a while, Sally calls back. Nobody's seen anybody.
Yep. Says Moran went fishing with Larimer, but I couldn't find him at the lake where his wife said they were. So then I talked to all their aides, and they all insist that they're fishing. No one has seen either of them in a week. And this is before Loren can say, don't use their names.
Yes. She was just spitting out all of the names.
Yeah.
Which indicates she doesn't fully grasp the enormity of the situation, because everybody's keeping a lid on it. And then the call gets cut off.
Gets cut off just after Sally says, oh, by the way, Dirk got car bombed. and then the phone call gets cut off by goons, 2 huge goons and the first officer.
Yes, she has to see the captain now. The pilot of the helicopter gets
Chapter 47.
Oh yes, chapter 47.
We're no longer on a cruise ship.
Yes, we're no longer on the cruise ship. The pilot gets arsoned by an Oriental. I have in quotation marks.
Yes, a helicopter lands in Charleston, and an Asian with a shotgun gets out. And he goes into this little helicopter rental place and talks with the helicopter pilot who picked up Moran and Larimer and Paul.
Or the Russian cell, yes.
Yes. And the guy with the shotgun says, you have 10 seconds to tell me where they went. After that, I blow off your knees. After that, your sex life. After that, who knows? It just skips whatever happens next. And the guy with the shotgun walks out, locks the door, drives off, and the office burns down. That is a badass scene right there.
That is a badass scene. Meanwhile, Pitt is in a bar drinking girly drinks.
A Manhattan is not... Is a Manhattan a girl drink?
I think that's what they drank in Sex and the City, and then it became a girl drink? But I could be mistaken.
Maybe.
I think it became a girl drink.
I mean, yeah, it's like...
accidentally.
Whiskey, vermouth, bitters, and a cherry. That's not that girly. That's pretty much hard liquor.
But he's staring down the bottle. He's very manly, in a manly fashion, staring down the bottle of his Manhattan.
It's a Manhattan.
Cocktail. Thinking about the car that's no longer with us.
Oh yeah, the sexy waitress says, I've seen that look before. Lose your best girl or your wife, and Pitt's like, worse, my car.
And the waitress is just like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
She walks
okay,
away.
sure. I'm gonna leave you alone now, weirdo.
Pitt and Cassio talk briefly on the phone, and Pitt tells Cassio, I gotta learn more about Madame Bougainville, and kind of insinuates, you should toss her office. And then Cassio's like, should I toss her office? And Pitt's like, I didn't say that. I was trying to be clever about it, but yes.
Sal is at first mad that Pitt is horning in on his job. He's like, back off, Pitt, she's mine. And Pitt's like, you don't have the resources to take her on. And Sal responds with, neither do you. So Pitt says, it takes 2 to start an army. And I think this is the first time we really see Pitt recruiting henchmen to his side.
Oh.
It's not just his usual allies. He's acquiring Pokemon along the way.
Now it's a jobs program.
Yes, so he's going to wind up Sal Cashio and just turn him loose on Madame Bougainville, which is kind of great.
Then he gets a phone call from Loren's secretary, while he's at this rando bar. So
At
Loren's
the
secretary,
bar. I had that written down.
Loren's secretary has been doing work for hours. She's called every bar, every hospital, every fishing village, every Holiday Inn, but she's gotten to Pitt and she downloads Pitt as to what's going on, the call that was cut off,
Yeah.
the wild goose chase she was sent on by Loren.
Lauren's last words were, "Call Dirk and tell him I need..."
And then Pitt has the pithy sentence of, "That was my travel agent." And people under 30, that used to be a job where people would coordinate travel for you.
My last note for this chapter is Pitt gets the name of the ship she was on and the info and immediately heads into boyfriend mode to go rescue her. No, he goes back to his table, sits down, and finishes his drink.
He finished the drink. I missed that part.
Lauren's missing. Hold on, I got half a Manhattan over here.
Well, that could be like a $6 cocktail. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
the presidential press secretary, we're barreling into chapter 48. The newsman, Curtis Mayo, reports on the 6 o'clock news, which was
Oh, yeah.
the news of record. There wasn't,
This was big.
it was just beginning. Really, CNN took off with Tiananmen Square, but it really wasn't the mainstay it was now until after maybe the O.J. Simpson trial. But in 1989, the 6 o'clock news was where truth was spoken.
Is it?
Saying anything as outlandish as the president is a stand-in, is a duplicate.
The president and key members of his cabinet have been replaced by doubles.
It sounds bananas, even if it's true.
Yep.
You better have some more to back that up than just a watch on the wrong hand.
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
Let's tell the world like it's fact. But it is, but it isn't.
Mayo knows that he's right, but he can't, back it up. So he's just, he's doing this on the national 6 o'clock news to just basically shake the White House and see what happens. Because nothing bad ever happens from basically threatening the White House and national security.
Yes, and then in New Mexico, the press secretary...
Oh, yeah, the very next section you find out how much bad stuff doesn't happen when you threaten the White House.
Sonny Thompson is there. He just watched the press conference. He's like, God damn it. He is the prototypical after school special when the husband gets yelled at by his boss and he goes home and yells at his wife and the wife yells at the kid and the kid kicks the dog. So the press secretary just basically saw this go down the 6 o'clock news. Very bad day at the office. So he's in no mood to deal with Sutton, who's anxious, antsy, and he's like, maybe I can cash out. This will be a big story. I can make lots of money. I can do interviews and books and Thompson's like, you will be missing. There will be no books. You will just be missing. Shut up. They're like, oh, he's the dog. He just kicked the dog.
And that conversation goes on so much longer than you think because Sutton doesn't pick up on the threats. So Sonny Thompson has to reiterate it several times, no, you won't go to jail for us. You'll just disappear. And he's like, oh yeah? Who's going to stop me? No one. I'm untouchable. I'm a presidential impersonator. The threats just keep coming and Sutton just keeps not getting it. Great.
Yes, and he's basically Sutton has to be told, you will just be a body in a ditch missing.
Yeah.
And then that's when he gets it. And
if anything, if I was Sutton, I would try, I would already be thinking of, there was a crisis in the White House. There was a crisis in the government. I'm a hero. I stepped up to keep the government together while they figured this out. Don't be like, I was a key part in this evil communist plot to destroy the White House. No, you can totally frame this as the government desperately needed your help.
Oh, you could reframe it second by second if you had to. If I'm this guy, with the wherewithal that I have as the reader and not a character, I would be like, you know what? This is no big deal. I'm just going to go home, keep my stuff. I'm going
to hang out in public for a while where people can see me.
Yeah, in the middle of the mall.
Yeah.
I would just slink out. The press secretary, Sonny Thompson, hurt people. So he just took the abuse he got from TV and followed it right at Sutton. I can't blame him for it.
Yeah, he's got real, if I'm going down, you're going down with me vibes.
At the end of the day, this would be a heck of a a ship to go down on, because if this was found out at that moment that there was a presidential cover-up, the world's going to explode. That would be the biggest scandal. Murder would be the least of it. When murder is the least of it, it's time to be quiet.
Because there's the acting president, there's the Secretary of State, there's the head of the FBI, and the head of the CIA are all in on it.
Plus, the president...
Every part of America collapses.
Yes, everything. Meanwhile, Chapter 49, after this press conference, everybody en route to the White House, and they were kind of jostling, conniving. Nobody wants to be the face of this. Nobody wants to be the one to go out to face the press to answer these questions. It's career suicide. And Fawcett's like, it'll be Oates. Oates will speak to the public. He'll talk to the press. And he gets there, and they're like, Oates says, Fawcett's going to be you. And he's like, God damn it.
Yeah, it makes the point that Oates being next in line behind the people who are missing might be accused of being part of it since he has the most to gain. So he's like, I'm not going out there. If I go out there and say one word, everyone's going to assume I did it.
And he's right. But that doesn't mean that the next person going out there wants to go out there.
Oh, no, absolutely. But like everybody reaches the agreement except for Fawcett, and they all kind of look at Fawcett and they're like,
And Fawcett's like, but I was conniving the whole way over here. I was scheming to not be the face of this. Can't you guys just go along with it?
Yeah. And on the way out to basically talk to the assembled press corps,
to his death march,
the president's secretary bumps into him, and she's all like angry. Why didn't anyone tell me the president was back?
And he's not?
What?
Have you seen the...
Who?
And then he stops mid-sentence, goes to the other two, Lucas and Mercer, says, boys, follow me. And they run to the president's office. And they burst through the door, Scooby-Doo style, because that's what security is at the White House. And the president is there, like, never no mind. Nothing's wrong. Hi, how you doing? And they are incensed, as everybody should be.
Yeah, he's just like at his desk going, are we going to go over my schedule? I'm also unclear what time it is because he's saying good morning, but this news busted on the 6 o'clock news. So did they wait like 15 hours for this?
You're right. The schedule is all over the place. The news would have... Are we seeing this through like the lens of a 24-hour news cycle where the...
Yeah, probably.
It would...
Nowadays, it would be like in 4 minutes. If we don't have a statement from the president, we're burning this shit down. But I guess in 89, they're like, well, let's deal with this in the morning.
Possibly. That's it for tonight. The White House is closed. Everyone went to bed. There can't be a story. People, they're sleeping.
And at the end of this chapter, while the president is talking to Fawcett and Lucas and Mercier, and so many names to keep track of, in the Russian embassy, only a mile away, Lugavoy reads the president's brainwaves.
I can't get surveillance cameras to sync with a laptop that were all purchased together as a unit, a device. Setting up a baby monitor, sometimes you get interference if it's too many rooms apart. This guy's got a brain remote control from across town.
It's a supercomputer, which means it always works perfectly. And chapter 50 is where I thought they had one of the errors that you've had in one of your books. I thought a different book got pasted into the audiobook, which shouldn't be possible, but here we are.
That should not be possible.
Chapter 50, we're in the Mediterranean on a 540-foot freighter near Lesbos. I'm like,
my name is Ishmael.
What the fuck?
And we meet Captain James Mangiar?
I think it was Manganoo.
He's a commander of the freighter Venice. He's transporting gold for the Russians to Madame Bougainville. So it's a boat, a shipping container just filled with crates of gold. There's no other things on it. He's got a guy called Mr. Hong below decks. I take it Mr. Hong is some kind of metallurgist or metal assayer because he's taken the wrapping off of all the gold. I love how everything's individually wrapped like Godiva chocolates. And he's testing it. He's like, oh, it's all gold. They didn't sneak a lead bar in. They didn't try and put a phony bit of gold in here. It's all actual gold. And the captain is shocked.
All the gold is just in one room. Like, this boat is empty except for this one room with a huge security door on it. And all it contains is, like, Mr. Hong, assaying equipment, and a pile of gold that's, 30 30 bars high and 10 bars deep in several rows. And that's all he was doing, was just like going bar by bar, like, oh, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. It's a cool job if you can get it.
Expecting maybe, a hollow bar with chocolate in the middle.
A friend of ours was an accountant for many, many, many years. We just called him Office Glenn. Actually, a very good chance you've never seen this ad. It's a Molson beer ad. And it's what happens when you are a Canadian at a party somewhere in the States. And someone's like, oh, you're Canadian. Do you say A all the time? Do you like hockey? Do you wear plaid? Oh, you're from Canada. Do you know Glenn? And the guy just goes, oh yeah, Office Glenn. He's dead. And walks off while this girl just looks crushed. So, of course, our friend Glenn became Office Glenn because he worked in the States as an accountant. And then he worked at a series of small countries in the Caribbean as an accountant. And we no longer talked about his work.
What is Glenn running away from?
I don't know. I don't know what his job was exactly. And he never talked about it. But he suddenly had well-paying jobs in other countries.
Banking crimes, banking crimes.
I miss Office Glenn. I haven't talked to him for a while. But for all we know, Office Glenn, he's dead.
To be missed.
Of course, Office Glenn. He's dead.
And the captain can't believe it. They're almost all the way into port.
He's like, we should be safe. The Russians would never attempt anything in Greek waters.
And then he's like, oh, wait. We're coming up this particular bit of sea here. The ocean floor rises. It's almost a bit shallow. It's a good place to kablooey.
Just as he realized they're somewhere shallow enough that it could be easily salvaged by anybody who happens to wander by. And the freighter's torpedoed, it's shredded, it's sunk. The submarine pops up, machine guns all the survivors, picks up all the debris that's floating, makes sure there was no sign the boat was ever there, and then the submarine submerges again.
The cleanup crew, where do you find these people?
Yeah, there's a lot of bits.
There's so much flotsam and jetsam. That's why they call it's debris. But they did a great job, apparently.
Amazing job.
Back in the Oval Office, Chapter 51, the president is oddly cavalier. He doesn't understand why his office mates around him are losing their shit.
This chapter is amazing. I have so many things the president says written down here. This is a wild chapter.
The president's like, oh, just calm down, everyone. I had a flight to Mauritania to talk things over with the Russian president.
Mm-hmm.
And his staff is like, you went to Mauritania? Everybody on the Eagle, the crew's all dead. The president's like, oh, that's terribly upsetting. We should look into that.
Yeah, not just that, but he gives this whole bullshit story about the Mauritania. He apologizes for not telling anyone. And he's like, oh, by the way, brilliant masquerade while I was gone. You guys handled it perfectly. You guys are the best. That's why I hired you. And someone's like, were you aware the Eagle was sunk and everybody on board was murdered? And the president buffers for like 4 seconds and then goes, nope, prepare a report for me. And you can tell that's where Lugovoy is doing the programming. Because the president will just pause.
Oh, so he had a lag.
And then keeps going. Yep.
He's hung. Reboot the president.
Yeah. And I think my note for this, what the actual fuck? This is so dumb. I could almost imagine it happening right now in 2024.
There's nothing that can surprise me or shock me in 2024. Politically speaking, anything could happen.
Yep.
We asked 100 normal people.
What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man.
If we have an RC president, maybe that's a bonus. Just pass the control around.
RC president. That's the name of the episode. I like it.
So the president briefs his staff about some new developments. He's reached some nuclear arms deals with the Russians, all on his own.
Specifically, complete disarmament will go first.
Yes, and it's going to be fine. Trust us, because I have to trust them. Otherwise, how will anything in this world get done if we don't trust each other? And
yeah,
all come together in a loving hug.
And also, Russia will now have exclusive rights to all of our agricultural exports.
Meanwhile, Oates is in the room and he can't speak. He's so red in the face and bellicose. He's like, you're speaking nonsense. What are you talking about?
Someone straight up calls him stupid.
This Congress, you cannot do this. You are not a king.
And the president responds with, essentially, I've made up my mind. This is how we defeat communism. If we do this, nobody could ever again accuse the United States of being imperialist.
Not something we were ever concerned with.
They really weren't.
It's like the prom queen, head of the cheerleaders. You know, she's so gorgeous and smart, and she's dating the head football player, and she's going to go to Yale or whatever. She doesn't care that somebody's like, oh, Tiffany's a bitch. No, Tiffany doesn't care. This is not on the radar. The U.S. doesn't care if we're seen as imperialist. We know we're the baddies. We know that now. It's 2024. Mask off.
Just lean into it.
But back in 1989, this is Tip O'Neill's still around.
1989, somebody says there's no way you'll get this through Congress. And the president says, I do not need Congress. They will have no choice. Is that how it works?
Hey, people are just people with addresses and meat stuffing.
Oh, great. And now I have to call the episode Meat Stuffings. Stop coming up with these great things. But the president never answers where Margolin, Larimer, and Moran went. Everyone's too baffled by all this shit he's talking about. They don't realize that, like, they asked him twice and he never answered.
It would be completely baffling. It would be a psychopath. You're interacting with somebody who's not interacting with you on the same plane because they're being psychologically controlled from afar. There's a time lag, and his personality has been indelibly poked.
Yeah, because after the meeting, Oates is like walking out of the office, composing his resignation letter. He's like, fuck this, I'm out of here, I cannot deal with this shit anymore. When Brogan and Emmett, the CIA and the FBI, get him in the hallway, and they're like, we think the president is being manipulated, like his brain.
And Oates is like, excuse me? What now?
Oates should be like, that makes total sense, actually. I just got out of a meeting you would not fucking believe.
But Oates is like, oh, he gets on board, and then the team is coming together now.
Mm-hmm. The resistance.
Meanwhile, the president gets to go to sleep after that nutball meeting, and the Govee in chapter 52 and his staff are like watching his dreams, which is a really psychedelic thing to think about.
And that was the inspiration for the Matrix.
And he says to his staff neurologist, his thought implant will be programmed shortly. It'll be ready by morning. So we learn here the president is not even fully programmed. He's just cracked, but it's not fully programmed.
But now that he's asleep, now that he's dreaming, they can really get in there and do some rewiring.
I guess that's the downtime you need. That's, you know, when the park closes, that's when you fix the roller coasters.
And that's the inspiration for Inception.
In chapter 53, Dirk and Al are playing a drunk married couple, and I knew Al was going to be the one in drag.
I can't tell if you're lying to me because my notes end at the end of chapter 52.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I'm not shocked, but also, all right.
I'm not going to explain anything further then.
I wasn't sure we'd get this far today, but man, we burned through a lot of those pretty quickly here. We were focused. All right, so I have that to look forward to.
What? Now you don't know if I was lying to you or not.
Oh, Lord.
I wonder if they'll have continuity. Is he still down a finger? Isn't Al missing a thumb from the last book?
They mentioned that he was missing a finger in Mediterranean Caper in book 1/book 2, and I'm not sure it's come up since then.
Okay. Nanobots. Maybe it regrew.
That one hand is just off screen the whole time. It's never,
Have you seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon?
No.
There's something about a hand just brilliant in terms of interpersonal relationship fuckery. Like how you could fuck with your boyfriend or husband. Oh, masterful.
Oh, dear.
I highly recommend.
I've had a lot of people recommend that. You've recommended that. And I love Donald Glover. So that really seems like something that would be up my alley. But, God, there's so many shows I'm behind on.
Do you ever just get sick of fiction? You're like, okay, people live, people die. We're all doing this stupid. Every time you gain any kind of knowledge, then your time on Earth is up. So it gets evaporated. Maybe I'm having an ennui crisis here.
I've missed so many shows and so many series, it feels like I'll never, ever catch up. So I try and pretend they don't exist.
Oh,
Except for Dirk Pitt.
Except for Dirk, the ever-present Dirk. Well, I hope you get to go do something fun today.
Well, I'm going back to work, and then we're going camping on the weekend.
You have what appears to be a lovely home. It's got walls and a roof. I love all the chandeliers and the spiral staircase.
Which house are you looking at?
The indoor pool's a bit much for Canada, isn't it?
Well, the moisture is good for the plants.
Oh, yes. Humidity.
Yeah.
And the Florida room is excellent. What camp? Why do people camp? You have a home.
My wife loves camping perhaps more than is reasonable, and since we bought our little tent camper trailer, she has to use it as often as possible, so it's worth it.
You do have an awesome tent.
But this camping
gadget
will just be, we're going to set that up. There's a whole bunch of lakes around here that aren't too busy, and we're just going to chill on the lake and go paddleboarding and drink and read and nap and basically do nothing.
Sounds wonderful.
That's my kind of camping.
And romantic and sweet. That is nice.
But in the meantime, all my spare time goes into this podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye, everyone.
Deep Six! Deep Six! The president is back in town. Deep Six! Deep Six! He doesn't care that all those folks drown. Turpin's car got blown to hell. Loren kisses his last farewell. Lee Tong is on a killing spree. Loren Smith is lost at sea. Curtis Mayo sets the president's fate. Russians caught in a French mistake. The president is behind control. Gregorio is really old. Deep Six! Deep Six! The president is back in town. Deep Six! Deep Six! We're gonna knock this book around. This has been Cussler Lustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Tainter Cusslerlers.